The sun was sinking low behind the dry hills of Dust Valley, stretching long amber shadows across the land. The wind carried the smell of rain, though none had fallen in weeks. Caleb Hargrove, a quiet rancher known for keeping to himself, rode slowly down the dirt trail leading to the abandoned Miller farm. His hat brim was low, his eyes hidden, but there was something restless in his movements, something heavy on his mind. At the broken gate, a woman stood waiting. Her face was pale, streaked with dirt and worry, her dress torn at the hem. "Please," she said softly, her voice trembling, "do it quick." She held out her trembling hand. Caleb reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a single crumpled dollar. He pressed it into her palm. "That's all I can give," he muttered. She nodded, clutching the bill like it was the last bit of hope left in the world. Then she stepped back, glancing nervously toward the old barn behind her. Caleb followed her gaze. The place looked deserted, but he knew better. Word had spread through the valley that something dark had taken root there. Some said bandits were hiding out, others whispered about something worse, about the man she was running from. "Is he still inside?" Caleb asked. The woman nodded once, her breath catching. "He said he'd kill me if I left. But I can't stay, not another night. Please, just end this." Caleb's eyes hardened. "Go wait by the road," he said. "If you hear a gunshot, don't look back." She hesitated, her voice breaking. "You'll get yourself killed." "Maybe," he said quietly. "But not today." She turned and ran, her footsteps fading into the rustle of dry grass. Caleb pushed open the barn door. The hinges groaned, echoing in the still air. Inside, the smell of oil and sweat hung thick. Tools were scattered across the floor. A lantern flickered near the back wall, and beneath it sat a man tied to a chair, his face bruised and bloodied. But he wasn't breathing. Caleb froze. "What in?" Before he could finish, a metallic click echoed behind him. He turned slowly. A shadow moved from the rafters, a second man, aiming a rifle straight at him. "You should have minded your own business, rancher," the man growled. Caleb's hand went to his holster, but the gunman fired first. The bullet tore through his sleeve, grazing his arm. Caleb hit the ground, rolled behind a stack of hay bales, and drew his revolver. He counted 2 breaths, then fired once, clean and sharp. The rifle clattered to the floor. Silence fell. Caleb stood, chest heaving, his left arm bleeding but steady. He walked over to the man on the floor. The outlaw groaned, clutching his side. Caleb kicked the weapon away. "You're going to tell me everything," Caleb said, voice low. The outlaw sneered. "She sent you, didn't she? You think you saved her? You've just made her a target." Caleb frowned, realizing something he hadn't before. There were fresh wagon tracks leading from the barn, heading toward the ridge. Someone else had already left, recently. And suddenly it hit him, the man in the chair hadn't been her captor. He'd been her protector. Caleb looked toward the open door where the woman had vanished. His hand tightened around the revolver. The single dollar in her hand wasn't payment, it was bait. He stepped out into the fading light, jaw set, and whispered to himself. "She played me." Then he mounted his horse and rode hard into the darkening valley, chasing the woman who had just turned his mercy into a trap. Caleb rode hard through the dying light, the sound of his horse's hooves echoing across the cracked earth. The wind bit against his face, carrying the bitter scent of dust and smoke. The woman, he still didn't even know her name, had vanished into the valley's twisting trails. But he wasn't about to let her get far. Not after what she'd done. He replayed everything in his head. Her trembling voice, the look in her eyes, the single crumpled dollar she'd taken like it meant nothing, and then used him to kill a man who might have been innocent. Caleb had lived through wars, droughts, and worse, but betrayal still cut deeper than any bullet. As he crested a ridge, the moon broke through the clouds, lighting up the valley floor. Down below, faint lantern light flickered from an old wagon near the creek. He slowed his horse, listening. Voices drifted through the stillness. 2 men arguing, and her voice between them, tense, frightened. Caleb dismounted silently and moved closer, his revolver drawn. He crouched behind a fallen tree and watched. The woman stood beside the wagon, her face pale in the moonlight. One of the men, tall, broad, with a scar running down his cheek, was shaking her by the arm. "You said the rancher took care of it," he barked. "You promised no one would follow." "He's dead," she insisted, voice cracking. "I saw it. He must be." Caleb's jaw tightened. So that's how it was. The scarred man threw her down, spitting in the dirt. "You're more trouble than you're worth." Caleb didn't wait. He stepped out from behind the tree, gun raised. "I'd let her go if I were you." The men spun around. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then gunfire split the air. Caleb dove behind the wagon, returning fire. Sparks flew from the wagon's iron rim. One man dropped. The other fled into the brush. Caleb rushed forward, grabbing the woman's arm. "You lied to me," he said harshly. Tears streaked her face. "You don't understand. He killed my brother. I had to make sure someone stopped him." Caleb's grip loosened, confusion flickering across his face. "The man in the barn. He wasn't your brother." She shook her head violently. "No. The one you shot. He worked for the man who did it. I just wanted to get close enough to find where they buried him." Caleb stared at her. "You risked my life for a story that doesn't add up." She met his eyes, desperate. "If you don't believe me, fine. But there's gold hidden in that barn, the kind that makes men kill their friends. My brother found out, and they silenced him. That dollar I took from you, it was proof. His handwriting's on it." Caleb's hand faltered. He reached into her pocket and pulled the bill free. Faint, almost invisible, a few words were written along its edge in faded ink. "The gold's not in the mine." His pulse quickened. The Miller mine had been abandoned for years, but if the gold was hidden somewhere else, no wonder men were dying over it. He looked up at her again. "Who's left?" "The man who ran. His name's Burke. He used to work for my father. He'll come back when he thinks we're dead." Caleb glanced at the horizon, dark clouds rolling in, the storm finally ready to break. "Then we make him think he's right." He pulled her toward the wagon, quickly dousing the lantern and covering the fallen man with a tarp. Rain began to fall, slow at first, then steady. "What now?" she asked. "We wait," Caleb said quietly, eyes fixed on the ridge. "And when he comes back, he tells us where the gold is, or joins the others in the ground." Lightning flashed across the valley, thunder rolling close behind. The storm had come, and with it, the reckoning.